Okay, pushing on now with kind of the final workings here. I'm gonna continue working on the background some here, and then start to finalize and refine these forms a little bit more. They're not bad right now, but there's a step or two we can do more refinement. And I cleaned it up a little bit. Keep it as loose as I can for a sketch. And then also so we can work and we don't have to go too long in time, and then finish it out as well. So I'm going to start in here using soft, and maybe I'll use an extra soft a little bit too as well. So we can work through here. So I'll pick up an extra soft, and I'm going to darken in this tone, this value and tone back in through here. Bring out that little halo look that we have in our image a little bit more clearly. So it's kind of has a little arched kind of halo where the light source, the artificial light source, is hitting it. So it looks kind of like this. It's very subtle, but it arches over to about right in through here. So it's already kind of there. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit so we can kind of get it in our composition just a little bit further. That means I'm going to go a little bit darker to keep that nice and clear and bring out that idea a little further while keeping it looser. So right in through here, kind of arched over, and then down and through. So we're building on now our value drawing and refining final stages. You've done, most of the hard work. This is where I think it gets, I think all the stages are pretty fun, but people like to get to detail. And even though these objects don't have a lot of detail, and there's a reason why, since we're the basic drawing, basic section, right? I think it's still important to know that there is a level of detail that we can get to and have some interest in. And later on, these objects could be, have stickers on them or decals on them, if you will, or they could be more complex objects, and we'll get to that later on. So that's getting a nice kind of feel. I think that's pretty clean in through here, pretty clear. I'm gonna go just a little bit darker in this corner area right in through here. And I think we can end on that pretty nicely. And then I'll start to soften this little transition up a little bit further. I'm going to keep it a little bit looser. If you're not comfortable with that, then go a little bit tighter if you want. It'll take longer, but that's fine as well. So working in through here. A little bit tighter. Up against that edge, right in through there. And I think that's about as dark as I want to go to keep that kind of look, halo feel, right in through there. Okay, it's working pretty nicely. Okay, so we'll come up over and through here. Again, we're retreading ground, right? So we are going back over that which we've already worked on for some time now, enough time, even though this is a really relatively quick sketch, but we want to go back over it and refine. So we don't want to get to a finished level all at once. It's harder for our eye to really capture and see all that, even in detail, even in something that's relatively simple, right? As this basic still life composition and setup. However, you want to get into the idea in your mind as you move on later on to more advanced forms when you're drawing, is that this process works for at really every level, especially in more kind of traditional kind of sketching or drawing, which this really relatively is still. It's a very time-honored kind of tradition. It's a good place to start in your art training practice, especially if you're really young. And you're highly motivated and you're ambitious. If you're preteen or almost early teenager, this is a great place to start. And you may not want to always wind up there. It's like for instance, learning a musical instrument. You start out with simple musical compositions, use some music theory, right? Scales, and you never know where you're going to wind up. You might be a jazz musician, you might be a rock guitarist, or you may be a classical guitarist or artist of some sort. And so there's a range there of possibilities. Same thing in art making. This is a great, for us, drawing traditionally is a good place to start to build skill sets, to build confidence, and then you can move on from there to wherever it is that you want to wind up at. So okay, so continuing on here. Now I'm darkening in here a little bit. See how I kind of run that background tone? I kind of bring it down, soften up that edge a little bit to make it feel like it's really nicely in shadow. And then if I want, I could come back and catch that edge a little bit here where that table edges out, and then it moves back in, and see how they line up nicely. Keep that nice and aligned best you can. That looks pretty good there. I'm going to go just a little bit darker in this very far corner, and the reason why I want to draw my viewer into that, so it's going to get pretty dark, 9s and maybe even a 10 over there, right in through that area. There we go. And and then kind of blend it out. There's no harsh transitions through there. It's very atmospheric to get that idea of the movement and transition of light and dark. So I might go just a little bit darker now, right in through here, and then start to bring this over. Now I've got a little bit more contrast in the kind of this halo area. Now I could keep that if I want, or I could tone it down, but the actual shape of the atmosphere, the form it's making back here, looks pretty close to where I want it to be, connected to the image. So you can play around with that degree of contrast just a little bit more. You could keep it lighter, or you can make it just a little bit darker. So I'm coming down here to the cone a little bit here, and over here in this negative space between the cone and the cylinder, working that, going a little bit darker and softer. And then I'm going to come back and catch the edge now of the cone, and I'm going to do it with a hard pencil. So sometimes I catch edges. I don't use my darker pencil. I use a harder pencil. It doesn't get too dark too quick. Keep it fairly sharp. Point out here. Keep a nice point. Catch this edge a little bit. I'm not killing the line work, but I'm catching that edge enough so that I can keep a crisper edge against that. I think that's important. And I'm going to start to pull in a little bit more now that we're working on these forms a little bit, so you can start to see this a little closer and a little clear. There we go. And there looks pretty good. So we're starting to come in. And I'm going to make another final pass here at the cone, right in through here, and it's a little bit darker where that core shadow is in through here. It kind of disappears in reflected light. Then all of a sudden, the reflected light emerges right in through here. And so we get reflected light on the back side of that object and through here, and we see just a little sliver in my drawing of that table emerging. I don't think we see it in the image, which is fine. We can keep that. Or we can test it out against this angle. Is that working? Yeah, so we'll keep that, which is totally fine. All right, then we're going to come down a little bit here. Catch that core shadow down in through here. Blend it back into the reflected light for one final pass, and then start to work out form shadow, lighter form shadow, darker form and lighter form shadow out to the lighter part of the cone. In through here. Okay. I'm going to blend that through, and I'm kind of working down linearly now, or the feeling of the vertical linear quality of the cone. Now I've got this little line from the drawing. I'm going to take that out now. So I'm going to take my Japanese mono eraser, and I'm going to take out that little extra sketch lines. I'm going to recatch this edge on the right side of the cone, right in through there, reconstitute that. There we go. I like to say that word, reconstitute. I don't know why. All right, weird things that happen when you draw and teach. Try doing something you're really good at, that you have a mastery of, whatever it is. It could be cooking or whatever, and then teach somebody. It could be young kids, and then talk about it while you're doing it. At times it You know, I've been teaching a long time. I've been teaching now, what, since 2000 as a grad student at Arizona State. So about 18, almost 18 years now. And just some of the goofy things that I've said over the years while I'm demoing, drawing and talking at the same time. Because obviously when you're doing work for yourself in my own studio practice, I'm not, I don't think I'm talking to myself out loud. If I am, my wife will let me know if I'm being too weird. Okay. We'll get a little tick mark, it's okay. So we'll keep going now. Now this gets a little bit, I'm going to push this down a little bit, this marking through there. And I'm actually going to take my kneaded eraser now and go back and just kind of softly glisten that up a little bit. Soften that up. Take this out just a little bit. And it gets brighter and lighter as we get down before. It's pretty hot down there. The contrast of the photograph, of the image, got a little bit bright, which is fine. So I'm going to take this out even further, and we can play around with that. So I'm going to really burnish that out, just getting pretty close there. And I'm going to come back and soften this up. Now I have got a sharpened hard charcoal pencil that I'm using just to show you. I might pick up a soft or extra soft, my own practice, but I want to show you. You'll have more control with a hard pencil. I think you'll like it a little bit better. So I'm going to lay this over here to the side now. We're going to come down the cone through here. This could go a little softer on the back side of the reflected light, just a little bit. Soften that up. And then I'm going to bring this shadow, the darker form, in lighter form shadows we come across the cone over and through here and down. It starts to get to be disappearing into that. So we're pretty, I feel like we're pretty close there. I might put just a little tone over and through here. Now I'm going to come back and catch this edge on my cone about right here. And I'm going to darken up the background tone right in through here just a little bit. Just perceptually, they're very close in value. Remember, if we had a little circle here, right, the capped lens, and we analyzed just what was in this area, and I'm looking at that, and I could go just a little bit darker to help push that reflected light. I think that'll help immensely. Okay, I think we've got most of the cone set in. You don't see a lot of line against that cone. I can pull out a little bit, just a touch there, and I think I'm going to put a little bit of linear quality. You can use line, just value. Some artists like doing that, some don't. But we generally use, unless you're a photorealist, you generally use a combination of a little line and a lot of value too as well. So that helps. So point out right in through here, make this a little bit darker to pull that in. And I feel pretty good on this part of the box right over and through there. Okay, so we've got that. So I might bring a little bit of tone over on the cone, just a little bit more, kind of feeling that contour, and I'm just barely letting just the paper and the cylinder do the work, just to darken this up, just a nano step. So this is a little bit lighter, pops out a little bit more over and through here, because now I want to tackle the cylinder. So I want to rotate my image too here so you can see it with me. We can see it all together. And then I'm going to work a little bit now on this cylinder. So let's bring this, let me turn the cylinder, and we can see that a little bit. We can tighten up this area a little bit. Now this, I do this all the time. Again, I turn, if you've seen enough of these videos, you know I turn a little bit. It's just easier for me to handle and manipulate the space of the drawing. Now if it's a really small drawing, I may not do that, but if it's a really big one, I might put on the floor, etc. and so on. You need to do whatever it is to get the right, kind of marks for you. Okay, so I'm going to catch this edge now of our cylinder, turn here just a little bit further, clean that up just a little bit. I think that's important to get. Clean this up right over here. Make sure we're on camera. Yeah, okay. Clean this up. Use a little line to clean that up just a little bit. to tighten that up a little bit. And through here, I'm going to tighten up this bottom with a stronger etched kind of line, a strong kind of line, in through there, and I can start to bring later on a little darken through, extra dark. It gets pretty dark in there. That's really cavernous. That's a 9 or a 10 on the value scale. It pretty much disappears because the actual touching point of that cylinder underneath there is over, watch this, it's over about right there. Right in through there. Now, so we get some light coming through just a little bit and through there. And so, you know, another trick, if you want to start to lighten things up a little bit, is just dab at it just a little bit, soften. That can lighten up that value where you want it to be later on pretty nicely. Okay, now I want to catch this core shadow and really kind of finalize it. So let's start and say, okay, we're really close in through here value-wise. I might go just a little bit darker, and you can work around this way. You know, if I have a lot of time, I might do that. I might sit there and do that. It's going to take a while, so I'm not going to do that. I can make it work both ways. But that gives you that, ultimately, that contouring around the form, which is nice. I'm going to kind of soften this and go it linearly across the form this way, more horizontal. I could go a little bit darker in the coarse of coarse shadows to really turn that pop. Just a strong reflected light on this cylinder, quite a bit, quite strong actually on this side. Now, you might think that this is the same value as this. It's still lighter over here, but this is pretty reflective. That surface is a white surface, and it's lit, it's hitting that, so it's pretty reflective. So I'm going to keep going, I'm building up that darker value to where I want it, bringing it out. And I've got to think, remember, that edge has got to be, its conclusion is got to be pretty soft edge when it ends. That conclusion of this shadow form on both sides into the lighter areas, a lighter form shadow, right, in through here. It's got to end softly to pull off the idea of what you want. So in here it's soft, right? And back here it's soft. But it ends a little bit darker because this is reflective light. Unless you had a multiple light sources, you had a little somebody over here with a little an extra light source kicking in, you don't want that to be as light. So we're going to take that down just a step. Here, half step value to clean that out a little bit, or to clear up that a little bit actually, and maybe just a little bit darker in the coarse of the core. And then I'm going to come over and catch this edge a little bit. The end of the shadow tends to come over a little bit further, kind of curve down a little bit, like so. And it hits over the edge of that cylinder because the cylinder ends to clear up that cylinder a little bit about right. In through there, nice curve coming in through here. And this is what where drawing ellipses religiously pays off quite a bit. So you can understand ellipses, how they respond to themselves, but also to bowls, cups, cylinders. Keep a sketchbook of cubes, spheres, cylinders, cones, pyramids, and you'll be rewarded in time. Be patient, and you'll be rewarded with a better understanding of how forms react. All forms react a little bit. So it's pretty dark, so that feels pretty good there. And I'm going to tone this down just a little bit further. Now it's pretty dark in this cast shadow. And so I'm going to go a little bit lighter, keep it a little bit more atmospheric, because it's pretty dark against the cylinder here. There we go. And then it gets, I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter as we come out here towards the edge of cast shadow in through there. So that's feeling pretty good in through there. So now I'll work back up here to the light. So I'm going to overdraw on the light a little bit. I'm going to make it darker, and then I'm going to go back with my kneaded eraser and lighten it up. I like to do it that way, or you could get pretty accurate to it. It's close already, but I want to be a little bit more subtractive. So I'm going to come over here first and clean up this edge, clear this edge out to where I want it, to there, so I really know where I've got it. I'm using a hard charcoal pencil by that. I kind of make a stronger dark mark where it comes in. Catch that edge, so it cleans up that edge a little bit. It's always good to have. Bring this tone of the cone up against. So if you've painted some, if you're starting out and you've painted a little bit, you know how difficult it can be at times to get edges to obey their master, the artist. You are the master of your project, and so you have to get those to obey. Now that's a pretty hard edge. We'll take that off a little, or dark edge. We'll take that off in a moment, but I'll reconstitute that, and then I'll come over and we'll catch this value. We'll go a little darker here. They're pretty similar to the ellipse here, but the ellipse is just a little bit lighter overall. So I'm going to go just a touch darker, and here we go. Now we're getting close to here. So one more little pass. So now I want to turn back on the light. So I'm going to take my kneaded eraser and come back over, and we're going to lighten this up. Now it's not as light in value as it is over here, so we can keep this a little bit more subdued. We want to keep it a little bit more subdued, keep it a little bit lighter in value. So I'll come over and I start to dab at it. Okay, I'm just stamping it out. It keeps a very light feel to it. Now if I scraped on it, I could do that. It's going to make a stronger highlight. And it's not a strong highlight. It's a matte surface object, and so it's very subtle. If it was glossy, we would have a more hard-edged highlight. Highlights can have hard edges too. So I'm just taking off just a little bit of that. I feel like I have a little bit more control. Well, I have control either way. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't make a difference to me, but I think this is a good way to show students that you can get a lot of control with a kneaded eraser, and it's very soft, and you can just dab at it. And if I want to scratch out, or just gently scratch out, I may take out just a little bit more through here with my dabbing, and I think that's plenty right in through there. Now, one area I might say, now if I look at the shape of this coarse shadow, this might be a little too much, so I could come back and dab off a little bit here, bring this in a little bit if I wanted, and bring it out over here a little bit. So I'm just taking off a little bit of that shadow in through there. Just to be nitpicky in through there. And I might catch this right in through there a little bit. So it's looking pretty good there. All right, so let's see. Yeah, I feel like that's working pretty well. All right, so I want to darken up right around in through here, so we can let that edge go just a little bit, because that edge is a little bit hard. Hard line, dark line. Right in through there. So I'm gonna take this out and over and soften up by taking that, just glossing over my kneaded eraser. See how it makes it a little bit more natural looking right in through there. We take out that hard edge line, it works a little bit better. So now we want to finish out the ellipse of the cylinder, and I want to catch this edge. You'll hear me say that all the time. And edge quality. If professionals aren't teaching their students about edges, they're not doing justice. Edges are so important. Really tell the story of the difference between an amateur and a professional, I think. So I'm going to come across and catch this edge a little bit and through here. That's a boundary edge. They're similar in value, but a little bit darker in the ellipse of the cylinder. Now I'm going to gloss over. I'm going to turn this a little bit where I can manage it. Maybe here it's going to feel comfortable for me. And so I'm going to work across this ellipse a little bit. And it's a little bit lighter right in through here, and a little bit slightly darker up in through this area. So I think I'll grab, let's see, I think I'll grab a medium. And if I go too dark, I can always lighten it up with my kneaded eraser. Right in through here. And it's a little bit lighter down below here. So a little bit darker in this slightly in this corner. Just a little bit, which is interesting. Right in through there, and then we can kind of broad gloss this over, so I run it all through everything really nicely. Let that sit in, go a little bit darker in through here, then we can analyze it and say, okay, that's getting pretty good. I'll probably take a pass with a kneaded eraser in a moment. I'm looking at this relationship, this value against that value. I'm probably going just a little darker than the image, but I think that works. Again, you're in control. The degree with which you change your contrasts are important, especially if you know why and what you're doing that for. A little extra contrast right in this situation helps to bring this forward and push that back just a little bit more. So I think we're close there. I'm going to grab my hard charcoal pencil. I'm going to touch point a few areas right in through here. That's really, I think, where the cylinder is touching the table. And then we catch a little line, just a cleanup line right in through here, just a little bit. And then maybe along the edge right over, especially right in through here. Clean that up a little bit. And then right over and through here we can clean this up. Catch it, kind of feel the edge of that ellipse. Hopefully my head's not in the way. Right in through here. Clean that up just a touch. I think that works pretty well. Again, I don't mind lines showing in a value drawing. I think they work nicely together. You just don't want to flatten out your image. Otherwise that will defeat your purpose. So I'll leave it here. Here we go. And let's kind of finish out this cylinder. So I'll bring this up through here just a little bit. Catch that. Darken in that edge just a little bit. Go one little pass darker. I'm going to push that contrast a little bit more. And I don't even know if I need my kneaded eraser. I think I'm just about there. Just about glossing over. It gets a little bit lighter. Right in this area, you can see it's a little bit lighter than in through here. And I wanted to make an issue of that. I want to go a little bit darker, turn that light on just a little bit more. I'm going to take one more pass really quickly with my extra soft pencil and come in here and really darken in this little edge just barely and blend it into the cast shadow pretty quickly just to really sit that down. So now I'm going to reposition the image back to a normal view right in through here, and I think that's working pretty well. Let me switch my image back to as well. There we go. So I think that's working pretty decently in through here. I think if I was going to critique myself, this cylinder, the way I've drawn it, is a little too long, and the ellipse could be a little bit more foreshortened, but it's close enough. It's not a badly drawn cylinder at all. It's just a little bit, it needs to be a little bit shorter, and this, again, this is a little bit too wide, but it's not by any stretch of the imagination a bad cylinder, but to be really accurate, it's a little bit longer than what it really is in the image, which is okay. Okay, so we have that. Let's go on now to, I'm gonna work this a little bit further. I'm going to kind of give this a little bit of value. I'm just kind of glossing over here, kind of finishing this out, taking off the contrast just a little bit. And through, I might soften this cast shadow up in through here just a little bit, soften this edge, make it feel a little bit further away from us and softer than what it is over through here. A little bit more atmosphere in through here. It's important that edges are so important. Okay, have I said that before? Yeah, I think I have. All right, coming over through here. This will probably be my last pass over through here. Don't feel like I need much erasing over here. It's just all kind of tone out. I think I'll go just a little bit. We're pretty close in through here. I might go a little bit darker. Let me pull out just a little bit. There we go, so you can see all of it together. There we go. That's it. I might go just a touch darker down through here, but we're pretty close to being on to where I want to be, not by much. So right in through here. I can use a hard pencil or a medium, or I could use a soft or an extra soft. It doesn't matter. So I was using a hard, now I'll use an extra soft, just a little bit. I don't have to push down as much on the pencil. You use right now what you can to get the best feel for what you need. And through here. So I'm going to move to medium a little bit. And so this feels pretty comfortably finished now right in through here. I feel pretty reasonably confident this sketch feels pretty good. I think I need any tweaking or changing. I think we're there. Okay, so I'm going to work now the ball area and the box area. Start to finalize and finish this up a little bit. So I've got a medium in my hand, and I'll start to take on this. I'm going to go a little bit darker with that line work right in through there. And I caught that line edge a little harshly right in through there. Take that out a little bit. There we go. So I caught that edge down below on the box, right in through there. And this little lipped edge of the cube, bring it to about right there. It's a little bit darker on that plane, right in through here, so we'll come down a little bit with it. Right in through here, just a little bit, perceptually slightly darker, and it's a little bit darkest, or it's darkest in this corner, right in through here. There we go. So just barely, and of course it lightens up about right in through here. So I'm going to put another final pass just right in through there. And notice what that does over here. It starts to illuminate a little bit stronger the light on the cone. So you can see where I've made this a little bit darker to push that out further. So this becomes a focal point, but I want you to see this line on these objects. So I'll push that just a little bit darker as well. Okay, so we're working in through here. And we'll come back and darken down this table right in through here just a touch. This can go a little bit darker, just by a little bit, not by a whole lot. That brings out that bottom of the cone, the light on the cone, just a little bit. Run that into the cast shadow in through here. And then I'll wait to get into the pyramid. I don't want to get ahead of myself over there. All right, so I think that's working decently well. Let's see what we can do now with this cast shadow on the box. Zoom through here, not bad. Let me go in a little bit deeper now so we can get a close-up view to see. You can see what I'm doing and how I'm processing. There we go, nice and close. And you can see how sketchy it is. Yeah, I love looser work in general. I like a lot of different drawing, but if you had to really pin me down, I would say I would take the loose and expressive, but with a tight and inexpressive. Tight can be expressive too, but I certainly would take a little bit looser over that. It's just a matter of preference. It's all good. Kind of the difference between a Vermeer painting, if you know Vermeer, and a Rubens. I'd prefer to look at the Rubens or a Velasquez over Leonardo. But they're both obviously superior. They're both wonderful. And that happens with contemporary painting too as well. So I'm going to go a little bit darker in this reflected light. Now it's a cast shadow. Just recognize what's going on here. This is a cast shadow onto this planar box. So it's a planar object, and it's casting onto another planar object, but we're getting some reflected light within the cast shadow. So that makes it a more complex situation. So that's really fun to utilize, and you'll see this all over the figure all the time. So we'll catch that. It's nice and dark. This is a little bit fuzzy here, softer, then it gets a little bit harder edged as we get, it comes out a little bit here, so I'll keep that just a stronger edge, and then we'll go darker. I'm abutting now with my hard edge. I try to use that when I can, when it works well. It'll go a little darker in through here. And it gets a little lighter, then it gets a little bit darker back in through here. Now this form shadow, no, it's a cast shadow, sorry, a cast shadow on the box here by that other rectangular box right in through here. This can go a little bit darker back here. They're pretty close together. So I'm going to go just a little bit darker right in through here. And we kind of almost lose their edge because they're so similar in value, which is kind of cool. Things get a little fuzzy. But you got to watch those edges and the details. Got to get the details. Right in through here. And then this light, kind of that makes a triangular shape, goes a little bit darker. Darken that down a little bit. The background could probably go a little bit darker. Right in through here, just a little. Not by a whole lot. And of course, we'll bring up this edge against the ball. And then over on the box. Balls, boxes, pyramids, whatever, however you want to call them. There we go. So that's starting to work a little bit to our advantage. Okay, now this little patch of table, it's not as in much shadow. Notice, well, I can't point that to you, but it's not as much shadow as some of the other areas. So, but we're still going to go a little bit toned down into there. I can't point to things off camera. You can't relate to it. Doesn't make sense, does it? Okay, so that feels about right. Pretty good there in terms of value. So it tones that down. Now we're going to go a little bit darker. See, there's a little extra cast shadow here. Right about here, this whole area goes a little bit darker. There we go. Right in through there. And then one more little pass. I'm going to separate these two a little further by a strong little edge. About right in through there. And that's enough. Now I've been using a medium pencil through there, if you're wondering. Right in through there, and it feels like they separate pretty nicely in through there. This reflected light could go a little bit lighter. So I'll take my kneaded eraser and I'll just dab in here and just lighten it up just a little bit. Take out just a little. And that keeps it soft. By dabbing, I don't rub it and blend it together, and it keeps it, it just takes off, it keeps it nice and soft, and I can just open that up, that area up a little bit, and keep that a little bit more of reflected light. So I've got a little line here I don't like. I'm going to take that off. Now I can see I can kind of scrape and pick and take that off, and that works pretty well. It keeps it a little bit more organic. That starts to work. Now that lightens it up. That might be about right, actually. I could keep that lighter, or I could take it down. I think it works pretty well. I might actually darken this little core of the cast shadow just a little bit further, right into here, just to pop a little extra contrast. Why? Because I can. I can make changes how I see fits. And that's what you'll get. That's what you'll start to learn later on, is you'll make changes that are yours and not the image. And so if you're taking your own images and you're working from images later, which is good, I think you should work from life quite a bit when you can. You learn these techniques and then assign yourself drawing problems that, if you're self-paced or self-taught in a way, is set objects up on your own, as opposed to always drawing from images. Draw from life too. Life is important, so that way you get the full effect of drawing from three-dimensionality. I think that's a key component of foundational art training. There we go. Okay, it's feeling pretty good now. I'm going to come over now to the top of the box. This could be a little bit darker back along that back edge. I'm going to catch that edge right in through here. It's like being very incisive, make an incisive kind of a line with it right in through there. It catches that. And we'll go a little darker on this plane here. Not too much. I'm feeling like we're pretty good in through there. Through there. Get this tone down just a little bit through here, which pulls off this maybe just a little bit darker. So it's a lot of little tweaking now. We're really tweaking this out. This might be a little darker than the image, but that's okay. I don't mind it. Now I'm going to work on the bottom part of this ball a little bit. So we're already coming in pretty nicely in through here, so you can see that. Try to keep my head out of the way if I can. Try to protect my arm from the onslaught of what I'm about to do. So see how I've got these plexiglass areas down, so I can put my hand on them and protect yourself from yourself. That's what I say. So don't ruin your own drawing. So I've got a hard charcoal pencil, and I'm really starting to clear out this edge, being incisive, kind of making a point where it ends in through here, and then catching the line up where the bottom of the ball is, about right in through here, down a little bit, right in through. And then I'm going to turn the other way around and come in through here, catch the bottom of that ball. And I'm going to need to take out a little bit because it's going to get a little flat if I don't. So you have to be careful. So I'm going to race out a little bit right in through here to catch that ball right in through there. And of course I'll have to go darker and darken that up. Now I'll take medium charcoal pencil and gloss over that to make that darker and to get that texture back. You can see that kind of smudged a little bit in there because I had to scrape it out. So it's a good learning experience. So that ball works pretty well. That's why you should hang in there on these videos. I know they're long. Take them in sections. If you can't watch them all at one time, no big deal. Draw along with me. That's the point of it. Do it in 4 or 5 hours. Do it in a day, 3 days, whatever you can. Just hang in there, and hopefully you'll be rewarded with some minute kind of techniques along the way that I just quite frankly can't show you until I get to that place. It's like we're on a hike together, and there's certain beautiful species of specific birds that, well, I can kind of talk about it, but I can't show you until you're on the hike and we see that bird. You're like, hey, okay, here's this little drawing technique. Okay, so I'm going to take now my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to lighten up this reflected light area a little bit. It's a little dark. And so right in through here, I'm going to use this kneaded eraser to help me out a little bit. So I'm going to stamp at it here, and I'm going to take this out a little bit. But now I'm stamping at it. I had to reconfigure the ball structure, the bottom part, because it had gotten a little flat. But now I can take this and see how I can start to lighten it up by just stamping. I just stamp down. I clean out my eraser a little bit, and the cleaner it is when you stamp, like that's pretty clean, the more charcoal comes off. So you have to be careful. I lighten up my touch if I don't want too much to come off. And when it gets a little bit dirty, you have to work a little bit hard, but I like that too, because then I know that I don't have to, I've learned enough through drawing that you calibrate your actual pushing pressure to lift stuff off. I know that sounds crazy, but if you draw enough, and you get enough experience, you'll know exactly how that works and feels. You just have to know it's out there and then kind of practice that. Okay, so we have that, and then I'm going to get this underneath reflected light a little bit lighter, because I want that little core shadow band to show up a little bit further underneath that core shadow. So I'm gonna make my kneaded eraser look kind of like this, kind of like a little stubby pointer, like that. You can see it there, and then I'm gonna point and draw and dab through that. So I'm gonna come down here and I'm just dabbing, dotting and dabbing, and trying to hope that that's taking some off, which it looks like it is, right in through here. I keep on going. I step back and look, and I might take off more than I need, which is fine because I can always redraw. So it's a balance between the additive processes and the subtractive processes that give you that ultimate look that you want, because we could sit here for hours and just work on this, but that's going to drive everybody crazy, and it's not the point. It's a sketch. So right in through here, go a little bit lighter. I think that's getting kind of where I want it. Right in through there, a little extra. Could take off a little over here, or just dumping and pushing down. And there we go. So look how that lined it up. Now I'll come back with my medium pencil, and I'm going to refine this shape a little bit and take it down. Now the trick is you don't want to make it too dark again. So you want to just lightly reposition, maybe bring out the shadow just a little bit in some areas. So it's a very light kind of touch, kind of working in a circular fashion for this one, right in through here. And then I'm going to work in this kind of direction back and through, and just kind of glossing over just to bring it out just a little bit more. Right in through there. And then see how it comes up this way and starts to come over in this direction. And so I'm going to bring it up and over and through here and darken up a little bit, because I've got some work to do on this part of the ball, up in through here where I'm traveling now, and over. And I'm gonna go a little bit darker in through here, so I can take my eraser a little bit and lighten that up. Right in through here. Bring this out just a little bit more. There we go. Bring that over. There we go. Right in through there. So it's working pretty well. I think I'm getting close to getting that ball finished. So a darker form shadow right in through here. And then if you wanted a stronger highlight, which you could put down. Now notice I'm probably not going to use a whole lot of white charcoal. Now the only white charcoal I might use would be right in through here, just to pop that out a little bit brighter, since it's kind of the ultra focal point. Let me show you that now while I'm right here. Can we see that? Yeah, we can see that. It doesn't really need it, but I'm going to add a little bit more. So I'm taking my white charcoal pencil, and I'm just going to add, because you can't go lighter than the paper. It's almost the tone of the paper. It's just a little bit darker. So I can add a little bit of white charcoal pencil. See how you probably can barely see it adds on there, and it gives it that final pop. And the more you put on there and keep it at more of a hard edge, that's enough. It will give you that glossy kind of highlight that you might want. So now I'm going to take my kneaded eraser. I'm going to clean it up again. I'm going to tear it down to an even smaller level, and then I'm going to point it out about like that. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of just dab at where the highlight is. It's really not that obvious, but it is about right in through here. And so I'm just going to take out subtly just a little bit more. And give us the sensation there's a little bit extra light coming through there. Not a whole lot. It's pretty close to that area of what I wanted. Just be patient, dab at it. You can kind of hear that hitting the papers. And that's plenty. And if I wanted even more highlight, I would go with the white charcoal, but I don't. It's not that strong. Unless, of course, I wanted to change the image a little bit, which I can. I have that right to do that too as well. Okay, and I've talked about that. So I'm going to take now, to finish this out, take my hard charcoal pencil, and I'm just going to catch an edge in through here, just to make it a little bit tighter, right in through there. Not by a whole lot, and maybe up and over. Really reach around. I try not to move the image around unless I just can't. I have to move it, and so that way it's easier on the editing process, and also you guys don't have to move it as much as well. Right in through there. There we go. And then I might bring out just a little bit of, make this a little bit darker. Just a little bit, bring it up to that ball. So you're just working that edge, keeping it crisp, and getting that value close to where you want it in through there. So I think that's looking pretty good. I may make this edge just a little bit darker. Make it turn just a little bit darker. I think we're good. I think we're good there. Okay. So now I want to move on to both the pyramid and the rectangular cube, and then we're through here and we're almost done. So I think we can get this done a little bit faster. So I'm going to pick up my medium pencil. I'm going to pull out a little bit here. Show you the whole shebang. There we are. Getting closer, right? I'm getting closer all the time. And then we'll, let's see here. Let's work a little bit on this background over and through here. So we're pretty close to what I wanted, or what I'm wanting through here. And then we'll go down and over. And we're just going to start to soften this up a little bit. Keep it loose. It's not a photograph, it's a drawing. You can make yours tighter if you want. You're going to spend more time doing that. Just FYI. We'll make a little bit. So I like the marks to show a little bit. It's okay if you don't. It's not a capital crime. Alright, so we've got that. Okay. And we're working over here, coming down. And, you know, I can go faster with the softer pencil, but the rub on that is it's harder to control if you're not used to it. So I've got a medium in my hand. That's not too bad to use, I don't think. So go a little bit darker into here. There we go. And this kind of, see, this has a slight kind of light halo to it around here. Right, and then out and kind of over, sort of here it gets a little bit lighter. We can soften it up with some nute erasing too as well. I'll go in slightly different directions when I'm going to go a little bit darker and blend out those marks a little bit in together by going in different directions, or I could go in smaller circles. It takes a little bit longer. I'm gonna take off the edge of my pencil. There we go. It's a little bit. There's sometimes it gets a little bit wooded scratches on there. It makes a mark you don't want. So this kind of comes out in this direction, kind of a halo too, a little bit like this. Just thinking about that. That might be a little dark there. Okay, take that down and out. And kind of coming through this direction. Now later on you could take your hand and blend that a little bit and kind of take that over, but I just want to keep almost entirely just the marks of the pencil. That'll be more intermediate type lessons, if you will. Just working the background tone, softening that up a little bit. We don't have a lot of work to do left on our objects, our pyramid and our rectangular cube. We're almost there. Okay, so we're pretty close in this background tone, or the table tone. Notice it's not very wide at all. It's got a lot of value to it, right? And it's hotter and brighter in this area, which we want to show. Okay, so let's work now on the pyramid. We're really pretty close in the plane of it. I think that doesn't need much work at all. I might go just a touch darker to bring that tip out, since it is the closest to us. A little stronger in the core shadow, but then the cast shadow needs a little bit of work. So we'll work here, and it gets hard edged right here, and then it gets a little softer quickly right here, hard edge, then it starts to soften out about right in through here, right in through there just a little bit. That happens sometimes when you have two lights that are slightly in different positions, which I did have to make it brighter, the intensity. So you can tell it's slightly there. One is a little bit higher than the other when I set it up in terms of the light elevation. So you get slightly two different cast shadow looks, just barely. So this goes a little bit darker, and then it gets pretty soft out and through here. Lots of little subtleties in through here. So I'm kind of glossing over, going pretty fast. Through here a little bit. And then we're taking this little edge here and going a little bit darker where it's softer, right in through here. And then we'll soften and darken right in through here, and I'll soften this up one more transitional stage in through here. Soften this up. Especially back here, and then a little bit up here in the front. And then it gets that hard edge. So that feels pretty good. Right in through there, that's starting to react pretty nicely to the final product of the drawing, and then I'll catch the edge. I'll do that with the hard pencil here. Right in through here, the little tipped points. You can see that in the camera right in through there. And it fades off a little bit, and it gets a little bit darker, really. Kind of that man-made edge right in through there. And it tips out nice and dark and clean right in through there. Kind of where they come together, it's kind of a dark little area. It works pretty well. All right, so let's work now on the edge of the lighter side of the pyramid. So to do that, what I might do is actually work a little bit more on the plane of the rectangular box, on the far box. I think it needs to go a little bit darker just so we can show up that light, because we're getting close there. So we'll go just a touch darker, and I'm using that triangle as a butting edge. It's a good place where I can use it. Keep that edge. The more I can keep it tighter, longer, without having to go back and fix it is nice. It's always a nice thing. So this is not a flat rectangular light. The plane is flat, but it, you know, we're in atmosphere, and so we don't want to leave it just a flat value. So it might look that way, but it's going to be, I'm going to perceptually see it as a little bit darker right against the plane, the light plane of the pyramid, and then it can go a little bit darker maybe in through here, maybe against the lip. You have to really look. And the more you study light on any objects, the figure, a wine bottle, an animal, whatever, tree, whatever it is, you'll see that there's a lot of different little steps. And so you never want to leave your value in an object the same value for too long. Otherwise, it's going to get pretty flat on you. And I don't think you're going to like it. Unless you want a flat look, you want to look like Gauguin or you want to look like Matisse, then I say go for it. But they understood what and why they were doing it once they figured out their language, and so they could manipulate the change. Here we're just trying to figure out good the mechanics of drawing, the basic components that all artists, no matter where you're headed in your career, want to kind of have a good handle on. So up and through and over. Since I'm a professional artist and educator, it's kind of my job to kind of do this for sure. All right, so a little bit darker up and through here. So I think it's working pretty nicely. It might be just a little bit darker than the image, but I'm okay with it. Now I'm gonna one more little pass of dark right in through here, then it's a little bit lighter on the edge, and then right in down in through here, I perceptually see it as a little bit darker. So I'm kind of moving this tone around a little bit. Okay, catch this edge, just right in through here, especially where it's darker. I go a little bit where I can't see the line as strong. I'll go a little bit darker to really tighten up that edge against that soft. So I'm playing off this soft background of shadow tone against the light and against these hard edges too as well, and it plays in a way that helps the image to read and become dimensional. Tighten up that edge in through there, so a little bit darker. You could leave this down as a budding edge. And so I just want a little bit darker. Like I said, probably a little bit darker than the image. That's okay. I wanted it that way. A little stronger is not a bad thing, in my opinion. Brings it. I think it makes it better. What's what makes the image better than a quick little photograph? Okay, running through there. Catch that edge a little bit. The line's a little harsh. I'll soften it by darkening in the background slightly even further. Then if I don't like that, here's what I'll do is I'll actually make a little bit more wavering line. I'll take my kneaded eraser and I'll say, okay, let's just play around with that. And I'll start dabbing. Maybe I want to go just a little bit lighter so I can make it hover in what I call kind of just atmospheric shimmering a little bit. Into there. Okay. And just kind of work it up in through here. And just have fun with making it feel more atmospheric right in through there. And you can play around with it through here. So I play around. I mean, just really seriously start to manipulate this a little bit further. So I'm just dabbing and taking some out. It's like somebody's knocking at the door. And then I'm going to take my medium charcoal pencil and then I'm going to smooth out that transition a little bit, just to play around with that movement just a little bit. Soften it back up. Sometimes it leaves a little bit harder transition, but we got a little bit more shimmering in there, hopefully. I know it's a subtle kind of thing, but I didn't want to show you that. So it gives it a little bit more light movement and play. Okay, so this top plane of the box here, of the back box is pretty close to being set in. It's a little flat, and so we want to take that idea and not have it be so flat, and then come around, and it goes a little, it will be a little bit darker. Catch that edge a little bit, bring that background tone to it. Then I'll gloss over this a little bit. Just take that down. And then I'm going to make this back area just a little bit darker. I'm always looking for areas where I can get a little bit of shimmering transition, a little bit darker running through there, just a little bit in the back, a little bit lighter in the front. Not too much needed there, really. That's plenty to tone that down. So what I really want you to see, I would rather keep this a little bit darker, more subdued, and bring that out the most. I think I'm going to make one more pass in that highlight with my kneaded eraser, and not very much of it either. Just this little bit in my hand, just to bring that out further. I'm not going to use any white charcoal or any chalk, but I am going to try to dig out more. I'm just barely touching down, but I am rubbing through it just to take out as much as I can, but it keeps a nice soft edge right in through there. And I think that working pretty well. Let's see. Let me try just to gloss over. There we go. All right. Let me come up here, catch this edge. We're almost there. And then lastly, the plane of the pyramid. We want to do the same kind of thing, the same kind of feel to this drawing, is to take my medium charcoal pencil, and it's lighter at the top part of the pyramid and a little darker on the plane down below. So I'm going to just lay that across there and have that as a guide. So we're going to go a little bit darker at the bottom, and I'm shading, stroking the mark making of the same perspective dimension. So see how I'm moving the same angle here, just out, and that gives it a nice feeling of that plane moving through. It's a little lighter up in through here, so a little bit less of a touch in through here. You just want to make that light feel like it's natural, it's skipping. It's not one flat plane that's not obeying the rules or properties of light, or 6 properties of light. Commit those to memory. Highlight, light form shadow, darker form shadow, coarse shadow, reflected light, and your cast shadow. If you can commit those to memory, it's great. Even if you're not teaching, especially if you're not teaching, commit it to memory. A little bit darker down here. What that's going to do is illuminate more of the top of the plane, the lighter plane on the right side of the pyramid, which is what we want. And we want it to be a little transitional, a little change, so it's a little darker in this corner too as well. A little bit less contrast running through there. And you're going to see that starts to bring up the light, the highlight. It makes it shimmer at the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like it's even hotter here in the middle by darkening in just a little bit on the lighter side, just a tone. Not as dark as here and not as dark as here, but just a little bit, and that's going to bring that down. It's going to make this light on the pyramid feel a little bit more like a hot halo spot right in through here, which is where I want it. Just a touch to bring it out. So there's another change I'm making, just artistic license change there. Just a little bit. And I think that works. That's working decently well there. Okay. Maybe just a touch darker at the top here, and then on the other side, just a little bit at the top there. There we go. Now I'm going to catch this edge, tip point this out, right through there. Over here on the bottom, I'm going to tip point just a little bit, catch that edge through there, and we're pretty close. I could refine in through here, this bottom of the table, but I think that's plenty. So I'll kind of wrap it up while I'm doing it. So okay, there you go. So we worked on additive, subtractive drawing processes where we set our own tone with our chamois right, and we toned it down about the number 5 value of the piece of paper. We demonstrated and talked about how the eraser now is a expressive drawing tool, that it's not erasing mistakes more so than it is expressing lighter value. Anything lighter than the tone, we can take that tone out. And of course, anything darker, then we can go additive. So we're doing additive and subtractive drawing to make an image. And it's a very versatile, it's probably the most versatile drawing technique that one would have in their drawing arsenal, if you will. So it's very, very, because I could take a chamois and chamois all this down and start over. I don't want to, obviously, but you can really let loose. You can make some wonderful marks, and it works on many different scales as well. So remember, we're still in basic drawing, so we're working on very simplified kinds of objects. All right, so there you go. There's the demo in additive, subtractive, charcoal. Hope you liked it. I know it's long. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. That's what it takes to make even a quick sketch. Takes some time. So, all right, I will see you in the next lesson. Take care out there. Bye-bye.